Ready.
Yeah, I think the meta question really is your texts. I think it's really fascinating and very probably right.
You mean treating gateways as franchises?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the trader thing, yeah, let's just use that lozenge there. We'll keep that for now. We'll figure it
Okay.
out.
So
But it's a flow of contracts. It's like as a someone who wants something done as an individual or a company,
yeah.
who am I contracting with? In which jurisdiction?
Well, you mean who does the trader contract with?
No, I'm suggesting that we leave trader for one side because I think that's actually quite a knotty problem, which
Okay,
involves
we can leave
legal.
it to one side. I think trade is very simple, but the activity of trader is often regulated under certain circumstances.
Yeah,
The
it's
way that it would work in the Dreamcatcher without regulation, if we ignore regulation, that's no problem. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
is this what
We're
you were
trying
trying to solve with this? Were you trying to solve regulatory issues with this company?
in a really bungled way. Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to do. Um, but I don't know enough. I'm not a
Okay,
lawyer,
all right. So
so
okay, so can I close this off and remove this apparatus?
um,
Because the reason is that we're not going to be able to do trading for a while. The model of trading is fine, but actually enabling the trading activity, I think, is the home run for the Dreamcatcher.
yeah, yeah,
I
it
mean,
really is.
it right, and it's
Passive
not
income, right? Yeah,
right decentralized income, which means that like that enabling the trader is 100% our end goal.
yeah.
This company though, I I don't know what the answer is to enable the trader, but I am quite certain it's not a company.
Well, feel free to because you've got the pointer.
Yep.
Delete uh, trading nap. We don't need because we've got user trader.
Okay.
Trading company we don't need,
Okay.
and the link should delete. Yeah.
And this one and this one. Yeah.
No. Undo that. Move attribution back up into Dreamcatcher.
Oh, had you taken attribution out of the Dreamcatcher? You
Yeah.
robber. You
Well,
robber.
yeah, I know.
You
It
robber.
was. I. It's like where does attribution go? Because the Dreamcatcher just says what's happened,
The Dreamcatcher
but
does the attribution. That's the heart. You took the heart of the Dreamcatcher away, and then you were like,
but
oh,
as soon as you talk about okay, this is the last thing I want to say about trading because I'm not skilled in the art. But
oh hell.
trading is effectively um, a change of attribution. Contribution remains. Attribution is who does it go to?
Hold on, buddy. Trading is the act of changing the contribution record to affect the attribution.
Yeah, but this, if you imagine this as a ledger, it's like I created this, other stuff happened, and then now I'm giving you, I'm linking back to the this that I did, and everything that would have come to me comes to you.
No,
It's
you can't
trading,
ever sell the whole thing.
or a fraction of it, or a license of it. You
You
give it
can't
away
sell
for
an
free.
amount. You cannot sell any amount as you do not say how much.
Um,
All you do,
no. It's ownership. It's not what you get because that's the dispersal event.
it's not ownership either. You do not change your contribution. Your contribution is left unmeasured until each instant that attribution is calculated. You can't sell that.
Yeah. No. I think in a bungled way, that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
express.
Well, you're saying the
In
different
that
words, though. That's the problem.
you can't sell IP. IP exists. You can sell licenses to use your IP.
You
Yeah,
can
you can
absolutely
do that.
sell IP, But let's not go down that path again,
Okay. Yeah, let's not
right?
do that.
Like a patent is a piece of IP, right?
No. Let's not go down that path.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not.
All right, we'll
It's
just
not.
back away
But let's not.
slowly. Back away slowly.
It's back
Back away.
because I've really, I've got about a Wikipedia level understanding of legalities in maybe one or maybe two jurisdictions.
Okie dokie. Let's back away. Back away. Now, I want to.
But your previous
No,
text was
no,
really
come on. Come on.
no. Your previous text was really interesting about the
Okay.
gateways,
Okay.
which I tried to put in as a kind of
Where did where the
sketch.
where did this go?
Or just
Why
stick
does
it
it
in the
not
middle.
fit?
Just stick it in the middle.
Plop it here. Okay, I
Yeah.
tried to move this around. It didn't. I feel like there's not enough room. You did something. You shuffled everything, and now I'm like this. I can't get the heart of the Dreamcatcher back in there because of something. Okay, how about
Don't,
that?
don't worry. Yeah. That's good. I'll tidy it up later on. Okay. So right, trading. Let's leave that to one side because
Yeah, I want to finish
stuff.
how it affects the contribution table because I feel like having a clear model of how contribution and attribution work and where they belong. The fact that you would even contemplate taking attribution out of the Dreamcatcher indicates a fundamental discrepancy between the understanding that the two of us have.
Well, that's an
So,
interesting thing. Okay, let's
all
go into
right,
that. Yeah.
and I also want to just in the nicest way that I know how, given that being nice is not very natural for me. I want to call out that um, you are often saying that we're close, we agree, yeah, it's sort of the same, and
I
actually we're
know,
not,
because
and we're
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Okay,
I need to stop that. That's a habit.
that's dangerous. That's very dangerous.
It's yeah.
Okay, I would
I
rather we disagreed and you were like, "This is plainly
yeah.
a
Okay. Right.
disagreement," than telling me that it's the same but it's not.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop trying to I don't know. I'm a nice guy. Nice guy. But
Well,
that's not very helpful. Okay.
nice guys
So
aren't helpful.
contribution. Let's
They
talk about
also finish
contribution.
last.
Right. Contribution is a ledger of stuff that's happened.
Correct. And it's
It's
not
it's immutable.
it makes no interpretation about how valuable that is. It is
Yep.
just simply the immutable record of history. And that's it.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Exactly. Now, this is why I was getting a bit wobbly when you were saying that you could change your contribution because you can't go back in time and say, well, actually, it wasn't me that did this; it was someone else that I've just traded with, and saying you now have my contribution. No, that's that's another record in the contribution ledger.
Okay, well then tell me how you would describe the situation where the contribution changes because there's a new as the trader, like when the funder and the talent cooperate, there's
Mm-hmm.
now like two lines on the contribution ledger, one for the funder and one for the talent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And now what I was meaning by the contribution changes, and I'm happy to use a different term if you tell me what it is, but if the trader comes along, offers some money to either one of these guys, and they accept the money, then the contribution table now contains three people. So you know for sure that your amount of attribution is going to change at least a little bit, no matter who you are, because like the contribution table changed. What was contributed did not change, but late contributions have been added. Even though the building of the thing is considered immutable and done, the trader causes additions to the contribution table because previous contributors are accepting um, late contributions.
Yes. Ah, right. No, I'm not automatically just saying we're close. I promise not to do that. Contribution is um, uh, just the facts. this happened, this happened,
Yeah.
this happened, this happened.
Yep.
So Thunder and Talent got together, did this, Trader came in, did this. It's
Yep.
just a matter of fact.
Correct.
Now, the contribution is the thing that the AI looks at if any value comes in through attribution algo, saying, well, who gets what?
Yeah, it reads the
Next,
contribution table, it
right,
looks at the contributions, and then it disperses the payment from consumption out to the contributors.
exactly. And there's other things in contribution that is not necessarily funder talent, because
What?
we've still got impact to
What?
look at
Hang on. Who?
in
Hang
terms
on.
of
Hang on. Hang on. Hang
attribution.
on. That's news. What type of contribution would not be classed as one of these users?
Um, so if
We have made a statement here with our design that all types
okay,
of contribution are covered by
I'm
these
going back
five.
a couple of years now, and this is probably not a good rabbit hole, but if someone does something outside of Dreamcatcher,
Example,
um,
please. Example. Like
uh,
takes a shit in the woods,
um,
or
uh, we, um, we use Linux as
sorry,
an
you said
important part
Livinx.
of
What did you say?
Linux.
Linux. Sorry, I
Yeah.
misheard. Yeah.
As something that is not on the contribution table. That's an outside
What?
piece that it
That is
still
on the
has.
contribution table.
Not if it's not produced inside of Dreamcatcher at the moment because it's not an event inside of Dreamcatcher.
No, no. Contribution covers absolute contribution.
So,
The
okay.
the the Dreamcatcher, the inside the Dreamcatcher simply means that the record system of the Dreamcatcher is aware of it. We obviously can't attribute to anything that isn't on record somewhere, but as the records start to expand, and the whole purpose of the Dreamcatcher is to be able to provide a place where the rapid ingestion of data at a rate never before seen, where you can have AIs that ingest all the facts and convert them into a particular form, like a contribution table, that's coming. And we
yeah,
need,
okay, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
That covers what we're saying about impact. So, impact is an external thing that's happened. You managed to save my life, for example, by getting me over this river.
what do you mean
Um,
external? If the records of that are in the Dreamcatcher, then
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
no,
external.
it's external as in none of this. In order to for someone to save my life by giving me a rowing boat
Yeah,
to get over a river,
yeah.
is not a consumer demander, talent, or funder on a software platform. It's some dude with a boat. But it is a fact. As soon as it goes into contribution, as soon
Yeah.
as it's recorded in contribution, and maybe we can like scrape and search, and people can put in saying this is what happened. Then it's available for the AI to consider in terms of
But
impact.
why is that scenario not able to be modeled using these pieces? So, in that example of you needed to cross a river or you were going to die, like you needed to cross the Dnipro River or you were going to
Yep.
die and you had no boat, right?
Yeah.
So, you would definitely be a demander at that point. You're like, damn it all, I want a boat, right? And then you've got someone with some talent says, I have a boat because I think talent with tools is the same as talent. And they say, I have a boat, but I ain't got any gas. And Funder says, well, I got some money and,
I think we missed something. Oh, I've missed something. The answer to your question is my go-to. So the user contracts with the gateway and gets all the goodness of the Dreamcatcher. Doesn't know anything about some dude with a boat. He doesn't, But that evidence is there. Someone can put that evidence
yeah, like
in
like if
the
if
contribution.
someone writes a nap and I saved that guy's life when he was a kid,
Right, and then you can
The
stick,
Dreamcatcher
news
should,
items, or
yeah,
photos
yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
you want.
The
Yeah,
Dreamcatcher would have an opinion on that in the attribution algorithm as it reaches the fullness of its awareness, and it would say that, you know, this guy gets X.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're slightly in the weeds now, but I have forgotten about that um, external
Okay, so how do we get out
recording
of the
on the
weeds?
contribution.
How do we get out of the
Um,
weeds? Because you started talking about something not in the Dreamcatcher, and I was like, "Hang on, buddy! Like our plan was that everything is in there somehow, and we're just starting with
yeah, yeah, yeah.
open
No,
source software."
the point to roll back about 8 minutes was about attribution, which yeah, okay, let's put it back into Dreamcatcher. Attribution is great inside of Dreamcatcher. Once it gets into trading aftermarket with the model of multiple gateways and so on, um, attribution is could be, for example, cash or happy tokens or
Yeah. So
medals or whatever, right?
why would you ever take attribution? Attribution is the heart of the Dreamcatcher.
Well,
Why would you
no,
ever take it out?
the reason is, and I'm pretty strong on this one. Attribution is how you interpret contribution. Contribution is
Correct.
the facts.
Correct. Yep.
Um, you could
If the
attribute
Dreamcatcher had a
those
soul,
facts
if the
anywhere.
Dreamcatcher had a soul, it would be contribution. If it
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
heart, it would be attribution.
yeah. But the thing is, the attribution, as soon as you add in trading and so on, let's see if you get someone who wants to. This is
Can you please summarize the statement you're trying to make instead of giving me an example so that I have to guess at what your summary is? Because I really can't see it.
contribution is facts.
Yes?
Attribution is interpretation and
Correct.
the what happens, and
Okay.
that attribution algo can be many attribution algos,
Correct.
but the contribution is just brute fact.
Well,
So
yes and
it
no.
seems
The contribution is actually susceptible to multiple interpretations because, as we know, facts are different depending on who you talk to, and so there can
no,
be
no. Sorry. Contribution is a ledger of this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened.
yeah, but
Everyone
don't
agrees
go back to your
with these
control
things.
systems mindset. And
Mm.
keep in mind that in a decentralized system with multiple views, there may be parts of the contribution table that are in conflict and disagreed upon, and that's fine.
Yeah, but we leave the AI to do that, and we haven't even
Yeah.
talked about when we
So I'm failing to see the problem here. You're just
possibility.
making statements that I'm agreeing with, and I'm like, yep, yep.
Yeah.
So what's the
Okay.
problem?
Well, I don't think there is one, but
It
the
sounds like there is
attribution. The
one.
reason I moved out attribution is because there can be different ways of attributing who gets what based on the facts, but you need a base rock of what happened.
There can be different ways of having payments. There can be different ways of running the stuck loop. Why do you keep trying to take the heart of the Dreamcatcher outside?
Because I think the heart of the Dreamcatcher is the contribution record and the creation of naps. Who did what when,
Yeah,
and
but
that's
without
taken
attribution,
external.
Dreamcatcher's kind of looks worthless to me. It just looks like a big ass database. It's got no
Um,
heart.
yeah, I'm not saying let's delete attribution. I'm saying that we shouldn't hold on to we have the attribution algo and it's only inside of Dreamcatcher.
I'm holding
Um,
on to it. I believe that yes, there are many versions, but attribution is what makes it the Dreamcatcher. If you took attribution out, you don't have the Dreamcatcher.
oh yeah. There needs to be one at least attribution algo, but there can be many.
There can be many, and they can all be coexisting inside the Dreamcatcher, and it's up to the consumer or the person who's paying in the money to select the attribution algo that they prefer.
Um, yeah, no, I'll agree with that. But it's finally we move that back inside the Dreamcatcher. But ultimately, I think someone could build a NAP that is a different attribution with their own values and so on. Have a different gateway, which is what we got, and therefore a different pool of money, and then there's a different value flow, and perhaps they just want to tip.
Yeah, but we're back to you're doing the thing where you try to fork the Dreamcatcher again. Why would you fork it? We went over this in detail yesterday. You're doing it again. You're splitting the Dreamcatcher and saying, "What if someone does this?" Why? Why do you say that?
Well, no. Yesterday we were talking about someone's um, more than welcome to improve or change or so on. And we can choose not to
Let's not
use.
worry about why what happened yesterday. Why today, right now, did
Mm,
you bring up again forking and splitting the Dreamcatcher? Why? To what end?
okay, so who decides who gets what on attribution?
The
If we all agree
attribution,
on the facts, which is contribution.
yeah, which we don't, but we're going to leave that one and say that there's some
Yeah,
version of the
yeah,
facts,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Whoever's paying the money is the one that chooses the facts and the one that chooses the attribution. Whoever's paying the money can choose that.
So that means that any one person who's paying the money can create their own attribution
Correct.
algo and just say,
They
which
can
means
be
it's
like,
not
all goes to me. Ta da.
right.
Yep.
Exactly. Or I think the a couple of years ago they were talking about everything goes to the Pope,
Yes.
which means the attribution isn't core. It's actually just another nap. Contribution is core.
No, sir. No, sir. The attribution is core. The interface to it is core. The implementation is many, but the interface is core. Just like you've got interface up here, right?
Mm.
That's what attribution is. All of these things are, whoopsie, are interfaces, but they are core things that must exist for it to be the Dreamcatcher.
It needs to exist, but I don't know how deep this you want to go in this rabbit hole.
Well,
This might not be
I don't
helpful, but
really. I just like,
yeah.
it just feels like
Say
you have a
all right.
different, you have a
Well,
different
say
view of what the Dreamcatcher
right.
is to what I
So
have.
no.
No, yeah, yeah, hey,
No,
hey,
yeah.
hey,
I caught myself. I caught myself. I caught
yeah,
myself. All right. So the discussion on contribution and different ways of finding out actually what reality was and the
yeah,
timing of reality. Okay,
right,
let's black box that. Um, now I've got an attribution event, a dispersal event, and I say, right, I'm only going to use this if only white people or black people or the Pope or
yep,
whoever gets it. There are many attribution algos.
yes,
Now the need for an attribution algo is required,
yes,
but the how it actually functions can be multiple.
yes,
So this is why I moved attribution out of there because it's unlike you couldn't delete anything else, or you couldn't multiply anything else in these lozenges. I think, uh,
payments.
but well, payments are abstracted through the gateway, right?
Payments can be all kinds of different things. We can
Yeah,
invent
but
an internal currency even.
it's abstracted through the gateway.
No,
So basically,
no,
it's
it enters the real world through the gateway, but it can be entirely internal and fictitious. It doesn't need the gateway. It's just that if you want to touch the dollars issued by the Federal Reserve, then you need the gateway.
well, here's the attribution. There isn't one attribution algorithm.
That's right.
There is
But
a need
there's one
for
attribution interface.
yes, there's a need for you have to have an attribution algo. You need
Yeah.
one or more. You can't have zero.
Yep.
because otherwise it's going to be shit. We're not going to get where we want
I'm
to go.
still feeling lost, buddy.
Um,
Like you're not getting.
right, but what's maybe it's a naming thing, because attribution here, if you're to read that as the attribution algo, sounds like there's one algorithm.
Well, you could say that about any of these circles. It's actually supposed to be the feature of the Dreamcatcher. It's the attribution feature.
So
We're not saying anything
here's
about
a
how it gets done in this diagram, but these are the core features or components of the Dreamcatcher.
so if I were to rename this, for example, the attribution interface, that would work because then that would imply that
Yeah, but
there is a
what's the difference
standard.
between attribution as a property of the Dreamcatcher and attribution interface?
Um, because attribution itself could be attribution algorithm. One, we decide. There you are. There's the algorithm. But that's not what we're saying. We're saying anyone can plug in their own attribution algorithm into an attribution interface.
Yeah, but we're also saying that anyone can clag in their own naps to this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can also put in your own payment scheme. You can invent the currency of Mr. Maxwell.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So what are we
So
gaining here? Like, what's the like?
um,
I'm disturbed by the fact that you would want to put attribution outside of the Dreamcatcher, and I'm worried that our mental models have diverged in a way that um is hard to detect because like you know how we were talking you know how some people don't have a mind's eye, right?
yeah.
That is very, very hard to detect because they will give you the same answers as someone with a mind's eye, right? There's only a very narrow set of questions where there's a difference, and you wouldn't really know. And that's just an
Yeah.
example of like, it feels to me like we have some differences in here that are fundamental, but they look the same on the surface.
I disagree. I think this is a matter of naming definition, and I've got a lag here, which is
Yeah, because you're going like,
really.
yeah, it's like yeah, how many trips around the world did your cursor do to get back to you
Yeah,
seeing it?
yeah.
It went.
All right, let me. Oh, Jesus. All right.
Do you want to just?
I'm just trying to do it
Yeah, yeah.
on my laptop here.
But
Right.
don't you have the screen? Your screen in VR should be zero latency.
Yes, but you're sharing
No,
the
but you can bring up your screen in front of you by clicking on the computer, and then you just use your computer.
Yeah, yeah. But that's really awkward because um, usually I want to type stuff. Uh,
Well, then
well,
being on my screen makes no difference to that.
okay. Let me try again on that one.
Do you want to tell me what to type, and I'll type it for you?
Yeah. So what I was going to say, I don't have laser pointer. Okay. So if we're to
One of your
uh,
pet peeves.
attribution, let's call it attribution interface. I think that's what you called it, right?
Why can't I click it? I need you to unclick it.
Hmm?
Just take your clicking somewhere
I'm,
else.
I'm, 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 I'm clicking somewhere. I'm clicking lots of
Yeah,
places.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Thank you.
So that's the attribution interface.
Okay.
Now,
I don't know why that needs to be an interface when everything else is an interface, but if
all right.
that settles the
Uh,
argument, that's cool with me. Because everything
yeah.
here is an interface, including the
Um,
interface. But
yeah. Well, that's. I need to tighten up some of the language, but let's
all right.
not go into everything else.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So attribution interface is a asks the contribution interface, I guess,
Yep.
because you're talking about reconciling different ledgers of what's actually happened.
Yep.
The algorithm, we can offer one, or we could offer more inside a Dreamcatcher, but other people could also offer other
Yep. There
algorithms.
is no holy algorithm.
Right, exactly. Um, and that means there's another lozenge somewhere. One needs to be inside of a Dreamcatcher because it needs to be one or more. Um, but anyone with the access to the contribution interface and saying, okay, so here are a bunch of statements about what's happened, and we've got a dispersal event. I'm going to put it through this algorithm. The algorithm is not the interface. The interface allows it to be recorded as an event, um, allows the dispersal
Yeah, but
to get made and so on.
what is the point of what you're describing there? Because yes, I agree with those things. Why are you listing them out?
Only because you're asking these questions.
What question am I asking?
Why did you move the attribution outside?
And how does
And
the list you just gave me of true statements answer that question in any way?
it answers it hopefully because attribution interface makes more sense because we're not saying that we are defining attribution inside of the Dreamcatcher.
We're not saying that we're defining naps inside of the Dreamcatcher, but we still put it inside the circle.
Yeah. So I was saying
So
probably I
is
need to
there a
go around this.
degradation of what the meaning of the circle is between us?
No, I don't think so. In terms of, I need to tighten up the uh, wording here because these are all interfaces to something
I think the
else.
difference is that there's a leakage between what the boundary means is what the where the leakage is.
Okay.
I think that it has. I think you have started thinking about some of these boxes as their in Dreamcatcher representation versus their real world representation. Like the funding user is a real person in the real world, but there
Mm-hmm.
is a representation of them within the software world of the Dreamcatcher.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
so, you know, all the algorithms for attribution are within the software world of the Dreamcatcher. There is no external entity that's doing any of the attribution algorithms because they're built into the Dreamcatcher. There are many, and it's an interface, and people can select them and change them and all that, but it's still all within the software realm, not the external world realm. It's a critical to function component of the Dreamcatcher. It runs on the Dreamcatcher. It's built on the Dreamcatcher.
That's a more fruitful way of talking about this then,
Yeah.
because this goes into something I was going
Yeah,
to talk
what
about
you're
next.
taking the meaning of the circle to be is different to what I'm taking it to be. That's what I think our distinction
Yeah. So,
is.
so by fundamental, could, for example, make that. Okay, so if we go back to
You know,
our
like
NAP format,
the yeah,
is that
that's
what we've got
internal.
now
That's
is
inside the circle because it's in the software world of the Dreamcatcher.
right. So the attribution, the requirement for having an attribution algorithm, if you're going to use the Dreamcatcher at all, that is, remember we're talking about don't mess with this. This is the operating system. Um, it's
Well,
similar
that's
to
part of the
artifact
standard
management.
environment. So what I think of as this boundary is the standard environment. The standard environment requires connections to the real world in varying ways. And I think that what has happened here is that when you created the apparatus outside here to represent the trader, you had leaked between the distinction of the standard environment, which is entirely virtual and entirely software based, and the fact that all the other boxes here represent things in the real world. And you'd actually started designing inside the boundary by using outside the boundary objects.
Yes, I think I did.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
I think
also, additionally, you made the error of bringing each one of these dots can be exploded out to many sort of different components. There's also some complex relationships going on between them all within it. You had started to thread that through from the lower level, the more detailed level, and bring it out to this top level. And that's why it had exploded a little bit down here, because really that is those were all largely software based concerns or standard environment based concerns, and more importantly, they were at a detail level that is one level below this.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think
Does
you've
that
hit
sound
the
fair?
nail there. Yeah, yeah, no, you've hit it on the head.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Um,
All right.
um,
That's cool.
so
I can rest easy with that. That feels like
yeah,
a good explanation
yeah.
for what's going on.
Um,
So that means I can kill this dot, right?
yes.
Because
Kill it.
this dispersal's not a
Nope.
dispersal's. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, that's inside and one layer lower
One layer
than.
lower, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
so uh, now, if I were
Whew,
to
that was
reflect
hairy.
on why, um, the thing I was thinking about was where. Uh, okay, so all this Dreamcatcher stuff, black box that. Um, I was when you're talking about gateways, I was thinking about the external. It's like who holds contracts with whom, and so that led to the trader thing. Ignore that.
Okay.
That was a wrong way to go.
Okay.
However, I think it'd be quite helpful to talk about your text on multiple gateways,
Okay.
which I've tried to
Before
express
we
left
okay,
to right.
we'll move on to that. Before we do that, tell
Mm-hmm.
me what makes you uncomfortable about this box and the arrows that I've put in for it.
Hold on a second. What you get gets paid
Oh, sorry, mate. It's
attribution.
fucking tiny.
Offers payment for late. Yep. And gets paid attribution. Um, sounds a lot like a funder.
Yeah, it's a
Only
funder, but after the fact, after the
yeah.
creation event, or when the proof was provided, or when the proof was accepted that the stuck was resolved, when the stuck instantaneously changed to have a solution, the trader is coming in as a funder after that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Now
So
let me
there's second.
the why I want to drill on this component is because to online this archetype is the sole purpose of certainly what I consider important about the Dreamcatcher. Like my purpose in life basically is to make that archetype operational. That's the main one.
Okay.
That's the end game for me is that actor right there. In my the when we look at this diagram, lots of different things are more important to lots of different people, right? To
Yeah.
me, that box is number one, and not by a little bit, by like a multiplier of about 100.
All
Getting
right.
that
Okay.
box to
Let's
work, and that's why I'm
let's
very sensitive about that where the arrows go in that box, right? That is
all
the
right.
most important thing in my life. That box.
Let's drill down on that and using the gift of I'm going to ask a few questions.
Sure.
Um, so where is the clear definition and delineation between a trader and a funder, and a trader and a consumer? Because a consumer offers payment for late contribution, which is
the delineation, the difference between a consumer and a trader is because um, a trader is is paying more than what they have to, for one. And second of all, the trader is offering the payment specifically to a contributor, which is bypassing the attribution interface. The consumer sends its payment through attribution, but the trader sends its payment directly to actors.
Okay, so it's almost like a tip.
Second and different. No, it's also the consumer can give a tip, but it needs to select an attribution mechanism. In doing that tip, it is participating in contribution, so it will, if you give a massive tip, you will get some form of attribution later because you're acting a little bit like a trader in that sense, but you're basically you're influencing the contribution table because that is a contribution, but the difference is you're going through the attribution algorithm and you're not going to a specific archetype. And the biggest difference is that you're not conditionally offering it. Your a tip is non-refusable, but the actions of the trader are refusable. They need to be accepted by a particular entity.
Right.
Because you could be offering me, like, you could say to me, like, I'm going to give you £1,000 because I want to get your some of your code contributions to the Dreamcatcher, right? I don't
Yeah.
have to take that. I might be like, no, it's cool, man. I
Well,
want,
it's not. You could reframe it as a bribe. Right. Uh, you know, it amounts to the same thing, but a
yeah,
bribe is like offering acceptance. Nah, I'm not
yeah,
available.
and I want to sort of,
But the important thing is it's one-to-one relationship. So the trader is saying to some other user, "Here's $1,000,
mhm.
and here are
Yeah,
my
and
conditions."
and it can be to a group, but the point is, it's like it's not going through the attribution. It's not a dispersal.
It's a
It's an offer of a
direct.
trade. It's
Yeah,
an offer of a trade to a group of individuals, and sort of more importantly, the distinction needs to be made that when the talent passes provides the proof that the solution to a stuck has been reached, they can refuse the funder's money
yeah,
arbitrarily.
yeah. We talked
Because
about that
the
before.
same
Yeah,
way, but that's the same way that anyone can refuse a trader's offer. A funder and a trader are pretty much the same, except that the trader comes after the funder. Sorry, after the stuck is solved. A trader's what a funder becomes after the job is done.
well, a funder is uh, um, a funder's someone who puts up uh, through whatever AI, escrow they want, that triggers. You do this, and you'll get that.
Yeah,
Whereas um, traders basically saying, "I will give you this,"
you've
and
already
you're like,
done that, and now I'll
"Yeah,
give you this.
right, right." So it's not. I guess what threw me was trading, because trading sounded like two people who had nothing to do with the project, exchanging assets, like a trading floor.
That is that though,
It's
because
more
it's
of a,
like it's the trader's
it's
someone
more
who
like
had
a
nothing to do with the project coming in after the fact and being like,
it's more like a Patreon. It's more like someone coming in saying, "Hey,
"Nah, Patreon's a friendly guy. The trader's nasty. He's a stock trader. He's there to ride the speculative waves of the market.
Um, is there okay? Next question. Trader to trader interaction.
Yep. So you can have arbitrarily deep, like let's say you wrote a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
I like that prompt. I come in and I say, hey, you want £1,000 towards the, and I'll be a late contributor. And you go, yes. Okay. Then my buddy comes along and says, hey, I'll give you £2,000 to allow me to be a late contributor, right?
Yep. So
Because what might have
he's
happened is he
yeah.
came to you and was like, hey, I'll give you £2,000. And you're like, no, no, no. I've just seen this thing skyrocket. I know my worth. I'm keeping it all. Okay. And so then the guy would come to me and be like, £2,000? And I could take that amount too.
Yeah, or you could just say, sod this, this thing's going to the moon. I'm going to hold
I'm
off on
going
a
to keep
million.
it all. Yeah. 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 And so it's what it does is it doesn't destroy the provenance of how the contributions moved around, right? Like when you trade in a traditional stock market, you're deleting the data about how your piece of stock came to be. It's like how when you receive a £100 note, it's actually passed hands a lot, but you have
Yeah,
no real way of
yeah, yeah.
knowing that.
Tracing back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a way of keeping it all as pure contribution or pure activity, and then the attribution algorithm makes a determination of who gets paid what. For example, a great injustice that I think is if someone with not a lot of money comes in and buys a big whack of Tesla stock,
Hmm.
and then like the next day the Tesla stock tanks, but it's sort of only like a jitter and whatever, right? Whereas
Hmm.
like a fair thing to do would be like, well, there wasn't really a price. It's just that um, next time Tesla does a dispersal event, like when someone purchases a
It's
car,
offer, isn't it? It's the trigger, it's the thing. It's the difference between a funder. The funder states, okay, AI will decide, but I've got $1,000 for that to happen.
yeah,
Trader is relying on the other user to trigger the offer in order to get acceptance.
to accept the
Uh,
offer.
and yeah, and until then, there's
Yeah,
you
but
know,
keep in mind, Funder is like that too. Funder is making an offer as well, and the talent might not accept it.
yeah. So is there a fundamental difference between funder and trader
Yes, there is.
other than
It's
time? Other than
other than
time,
time.
yeah,
Um,
because we record everything.
yes, there is a difference other than time because the funder is only able to offer funding for demands. So it's only but whereas the trader, you can't trade against something that's not there. That makes you a funder. But as soon as it's there, you're a trader.
Okay, let me think
And
through
like
this
you
one. This
can't
one,
you
this one.
can't you can't fund a funder, right? Like you can't be like, I'll put up $1,000 if this guy puts up $1,000 to do this thing. Like that doesn't. That's a pointless connection.
Yeah. So the funder in the scenario just gave because the all these users switch hats. It's effectively becomes a demander with money,
Yeah,
saying, "Do that,
I want this
please."
thing, and then the
Yeah.
funder. Yeah, so the person becomes a demander, states a demand, identifies a stuck. Then the person becomes a funder, and prepays the solution of the stuck.
Yep.
And then the person could become talent and solve it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the person could become how would they be a trader and offer to whether I guess they could offer to pay themselves even more?
So,
They could.
well, but not, it'd be ludicrous to do that unless you're
Yeah.
trying to launder money. But
No, but that's the thing,
um,
though. Like laundering money, it doesn't really. That's one of the complications of the trader in that it could be misused as money laundering. Like the trader is the most problematic action on the planet.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because
So I mean, I don't want to solve all the traders' problems now. I just want to make sure that we understand the mechanics of that archetype.
yes, and uh, the previous bungled, as said in text,
Mm.
version of that was like it felt like a fundamentally different thing. But actually, a trader is really quite close to a funder,
Yeah,
only
it's
with
yeah,
a kind
yeah,
of cutoff
yeah,
time.
yeah, 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 yeah. But that time is important because the trader can fund a funder, but a funder can't fund a funder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
By
know, like
definition,
yeah.
yeah,
So that timing is quite
yeah,
critical enough to make them a different player. It also, in the eyes of securities regulation, makes you a different player as well.
yes,
You know, like and
yeah,
this is where the danger comes in is that people can talk up the value of their contribution and promise future profits to the trader, and the trader can get sucked in.
hmm
And that's what
which
the
is
securities regulation is
it's
there
like,
for.
yeah, they're going to come down like a ton of bricks
Yeah, like the
because it's going
funder.
to the moon. Yeah,
I know, right? Like
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
that's kind of that's why it's the most sacred archetype because it's so problematic. But if we can enable that trader to come in and work on our platform, man, we have got we we're done. Like that's it. We're finished.
yeah. I think that
Completed.
we're going to need to get advice because that
Oh, absolutely,
is links
absolutely.
into the
But
external world.
right, but what
Um,
we don't
uh,
what we don't need is the mechanics of what that archetype does. What we do need is all the patches and regulatory guarantees and all that to figure out how to reconcile it with the real world. That's fine,
yeah, yeah,
but the mechanics is going to be the same no matter what.
yeah. I agree. So this comes on to the next thing. Okay, so let's park trader as
All right.
a ball of wool. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
It seems like there's a path to do that.
Yep.
And put a black box around Dreamcatcher as effectively uh, Dreamcatcher is all those lozenges and so on. So now we're moving into contract world. And I was trying to interpret what you're talking about over the thing,
Okay.
the
This
text.
seems inverted. What is going on here?
Right. Okay. So gateway. If you zoom out a bit. Right. Okay. So remember that Dreamcatcher org. That's the baseline.
Okay. Can I
Um,
change the color of this so it's not confusing? It's not.
oh
It's
yeah,
a
yeah,
different
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is this is all just scratch. This is a whiteboard, and it's not even close to being right yet. Um, right. Okay. So that is well, basically us. Um, wherever we want to place that as a legal entity. Um, okay. So the the thing that you raised was two gateways.
Mm-hmm.
So I just named them UK1, USA1, just being different jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, great. Now, I'm the robot army thing is you could easily say, I don't know, Venture Marla wants to run in both UK and USA, and
Yep.
so would contract would that venture contract with both gateways, or
So the venture's not a legal entity, right? It's just like a person wants to start a venture,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But
Okay.
well, it may be a legal entity, but the fact is, it's as
It's
similar
it's
as
acting as a person,
it's
and it's
logging
trying to
in.
make a
It's
hosted. It's trying to make a
yeah,
hosted venture, right?
yeah.
All right.
Effectively, it's authenticating and putting a credit card in.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the benefits of having this network of franchises is that it can be instantly operating in both the UK and in America. America.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. What's this thing?
Um, right. So this was one example of the Marla Venture, it's Robot Army, which uses
Why are you calling it the Marla Venture and then you're also calling it the Robot Army?
because I was trying to separate it a bit, but it doesn't really matter. It's a venture, right? It's
So,
a bunch of
right,
guys
but
turning
we
up
had,
using
yeah, yeah,
gateways.
hang on though, hang on. We had been saying that the Robot Army was the name we were using to represent a legal entity that represented you and I on the playing field as a legal entity that was a profit making actor
Yep,
that we were going to raise some capital into to amplify our efforts,
yep, yep.
right? Okay, but
Okay,
you just
well, take that as the assertion.
that's what
Entity
this
Robot
is.
Army Company. Yep.
Yeah.
That wants to use the services of the two gateways to
Okay, so this
deliver
is like Robot
NAPs.
Army, we'll call it LLC to indicate that it's a legal entity.
Yep.
Okay, and it's
Now,
decided that it wants to operate through Gateway UK 1 and Gateway USA 1,
yep,
right?
yep.
Okay, to deliver
And
naps. Why did you say to deliver naps?
because the effectively, other than artifact and services, everything's NAPs. So NAPs are the outcomes. It's like we want to deliver the CRM. That's an app. So
Oh, right, I
robot.
see. Okay, okay. Okay, but why it could also be offering services from the actors within the Dreamcatcher network that were not naps but use naps. Like it could, for example, be offering a virtual office admin service by using a handful of naps that it didn't build, and it was coordinating the talent to be.
No, no, that's yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it doesn't.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what it's doing is doesn't. It's not necessarily to deliver naps. It's definitely using them, but it's
So
uses services from Gateway
yeah,
UK 1 and or Gateway USA 1 to interact with the real world is what I would say.
right. It's sort of it consumes services from the gateways, and then provides a service to the outside world.
So I would say that it basically operates within the Dreamcatcher, this virtual standard environment, and it uses the gateway companies to interact with the legal world in those jurisdictions,
Yeah.
right?
And
So that
again, so the but interesting enough, interact with the legal world.
mhm.
Um, the consumers of Robot Army services would contract with the gateways
Yeah,
because,
that's right.
uh,
That's right. That's right.
but we've now got two gateways. So this was a
Yeah.
question. Uh, if I was to write let's assume this, I wanted your VA service, which sounded brilliant. Who do I contract with?
You're
Gateway
contracting with the
one, gateway
gateway.
two, or
Depends
venture?
on your jurisdiction. Depends on your jurisdiction. If I'm in the UK, I would think it would make sense to contract with the UK gateway. If I'm in the rest of the world, maybe it's best to contract with the USA one.
Yeah, and so there's a bit of thought we don't need to do now about UK and US are
Yeah, but
so
that's this.
close,
Yeah, but
but we don't need to
they're
go down
also
that route.
different too. Like when you, for example, if you want to use Stripe, then what you get from having a company in the USA is remarkably bigger than what you get from being a company in the
Yeah,
UK.
yeah. I was going to make one of those gateways, North Korea, just to
Just to show the
emphasize.
point, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So the way I'm thinking about these gateways is that we can model this whole thing using network architecture. And I think that these gateways, you could model them as a NAT router. So they're like a network address translation between the legal world and the Dreamcatcher world. And they,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what they're
yeah,
doing. That's the thing that
yeah,
they're
yeah.
doing,
That's
right?
exactly
Yeah.
what they're doing. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right,
It's the
right.
routing of
Yeah,
liabilities and responsibilities.
yeah, and they present to the world like a single IP address, but on the inside, there's a whole nother network going on of transacting and moving and all that. But
Yeah,
from the outside world is transacting with the public side of the NAT, and the Dreamcatcher is transacting with the internal side of the NAT.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. And tell
Exactly.
me about what. Okay, so we've settled that one.
So
What's this
there's
thing?
right Robot Army LLC consumes services provided or made available by gateways.
Yep.
Is contracted with two gateways,
Yep.
and then provides another service as a host.
X as a host. Well,
Because the host would
why?
involve a runtime environment like Deno, could involve JSR,
Are you
or any
indicating
other
that this
external
would
instance.
be the host environment that we launch with, or are you simply trying to illustrate an example that this is how anyone might offer a hosted environment?
The second. So that thing you're highlighted on now consumes services from the gateways, therefore doesn't have to contract directly with those gateways.
So
Sorry, in services.
okay,
So
so maybe that's easier to maybe that's easier for me to think about. Like if it did some other type of activity that needed a legal relationship, like what's a good one? If it, why don't we just say it consumes some of the more exotic AWS
uh
components
huh,
or
uh huh,
services,
yep,
it would cause AWS to have a legal relationship with Gateway UK1,
yep,
and then it would be able then to offer some of the AWS services in the API gateway within the Dreamcatcher so that
yep,
other NAPs could hit this thing and then, deal with the wider internet via this gateway.
yeah,
And it's
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. So
And
it's
then,
a bit like it's a bit like a services single sign-on, where you write the NAP and you say, "I want this to be done." And then we got discovery, and it just happens, and you've got one payment, one invoice
yeah, one
to the
payment.
gateway.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. So I think that we should change that. Like this is a confusing first example because you're
Yeah,
like,
go for it. Yeah, yeah. Change as you want. Yeah, go for it.
so what would I call that? I will call that um, uh, call it a pine cone.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. That doesn't change. It just makes more specific. Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
So you've signed up.
Yep.
to this external service, and now you're making the external services available internally, and that's how you're going to make your money in this model.
Yep.
The attribution algorithm sets the price of how much you're going to get paid and how much you are charging, and
Yep.
people on the inside, the naps, can just use the discovery mechanism to find your service without even anyone thinking about it,
Okay.
really. The AI does that discovery for you, tests the reputation, tests the functionality, goes, yep, this is a good fit, and
And because we've
then,
got the ledger, we know who's done what with the API, and so
yep,
we can link that API back to authentication,
yep,
which is handled by the gateway. Boom. All I need
off
is a
it
single
goes.
sign-on, and suddenly it gets everything
Yeah,
all at once.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay, that's cool. Now, um, uh, maybe we don't need to talk about this at the time, but okay, so we've got this service offering a Pinecone DB. Cool.
Mm.
Um, what's the service that runs the an instance of the Dreamcatcher?
So that would be to do that. I think it's easier for me to think about me being a independent person,
Mm-hmm.
and I am gonna be this guy.
An actor.
Oh, screw you guys. You and
Thespian.
your conventional models of charging people for things, and you just go to hell. See how the default size is tiny. Um,
The thing that triggered, which is why I was so curious and up for your text, is starting to think that there's an architectural layer around the contract flow, um, and then at some point it's like, okay, so there's a service consumed, which is an app that's provided. However, um, if a company turns up from Marla org saying, right, we'd like this done, who do you sign the contract with?
you always sign a contract with the gateway company. You could set up your
I'm
own
not so
company and
sure.
have a contract with them. That's fine, but it's
Well,
just like the point of the gateway is to make it super easy for you to connect.
well, here's I don't disagree, but here's a way. As soon as you add in multiple gateways, Lone Ranger could contract with Venture Robot Army LLC in order to get Pinecone, and then
Hang on,
inherit all
inside the
the
Dreamcatcher or outside the Dreamcatcher?
um,
Because
uh,
contracts are outside the Dreamcatcher, right?
yeah.
I mean,
This is just the
they are managed on the Dreamcatcher, but they represent a
yes. This is
relationship
this
that is outside of the Dreamcatcher. It's the
yes,
legal
very
world.
much so, very
Yeah.
much so. This is
Okay.
everywhere. So
So can I
Lone
finish this
Ranger,
example? Because I'm not. I feel like we're
yeah, go for it.
drifting
Sorry.
off. All right. So the Lone Ranger is just a person that's come in. They've signed up as a user, so they've started a contractual relationship with one of the gateways. Let's call it
Mhm.
UK1 for argument's sake. They want to
Mhm.
start running or hosting a full blown Dreamcatcher instance, so they click the button within Dreamcatcher that starts a new venture, which they
Right
would
now,
call,
yeah. So there's a contract between Lone Ranger and UK1.
yeah,
Yep.
and that contract makes them a user like anyone else. They then use the software of the Dreamcatcher to trigger the creation of a new project called Dreamcatcher Host 2.
Well, where does that project is stuck?
What?
So
No, it's
that's not a
a
Well, um, no, it is a stuck. It's something that needs to be done. They'd like to be done. They've got money to get it done. That's stuck. That's not a gateway thing.
It's
Gate,
not. It's not a stuck. It's the beginnings of a legal entity. They've created a new type of an entity within the Dreamcatcher, and the Nat is masquerading as that entity. And the key to that is by using the trading as feature of the company's register.
yeah, yeah. So,
And now you could, for example, if you want to pony up the extra cash, you could register a subsidiary, but the Lone Ranger would have to pay for that, and then the company franchise would set up a subsidiary company for you, and you can then go about using that so long as it's still governed by the rules of the Dreamcatcher.
um, uh, yes.
All right, so you asking me how does someone, the Lone Ranger, go about running a version of the Dreamcatcher hosting environment?
No. My question was, Lone Ranger wants to contract with uh, Robot Army. You know, as
Yeah,
almost like a symlink,
to do what?
um, in order to get Panko and DB server seats.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not though. They're not. There's no reason for them to contract with Robot Army.
Oh, no, they don't need to. What I'm saying is the contract with the Gateway, Robot Army contracts with Gateway, and therefore there's a pass through of liabilities and
Yeah,
responsibilities.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
And so Lone Ranger, just by contracting with Gateway
Yep.
once,
Yeah.
gets Robot Army. Can use Robot Army. You don't even need to talk to, Robot
What do
Army.
you say when you say use Robot Army? You mean use the Pinecone DB that Robot Army has offered in the API gateway?
Yes, or consume the service Pinecone DB that's
Yep.
being offered via the API gateway.
Yep. So
So
Lone Ranger has basically no relationship with Robot Army LLC. They both have a relationship with the gateway.
right, right, right.
And Lone Ranger could have signed up with the US gateway, and Robot Army could have signed up with or contracted with UK1, but because of the harmonization of rules between the two gateways, Lone Ranger can consume the Pinecone DB service with the money that he paid into a UK Stripe account using pounds, and Robot Army will accept that payment out in US dollars from their bank account in the USA.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
So what you've got is a just-in-time JV. It's like I've got a dozen Lone Rangers who are all signed up to the gateway.
Yeah.
Finds a stuck. We don't even need to discuss terms and conditions and who gets what and so on because we're going through the Dreamcatcher. Let's just get at it. Because contractually, if anything goes wrong, they can trace back the
Yeah.
the
The
contracts.
liabilities are modeled in
Right.
such a way that they don't need to go direct to each other. They all go to one of the gateways. And the only question for them is if they got a bunch of people that signed up on another gateway, they're like, is that gateway compatible with my gateway, and does it meet the minimum rules that I need? Yes or no? And if it does, then they're like, cool, we're done. Otherwise, they need some contractual reconciliation, which may include versioning of the contracts that they entered into with the respective gateways. And once that's sorted out, most times it should be automatic. Then they can begin trustworthy commerce with each other without having signed any contracts between the two of them, because they effectively act like employees within a large multinational company where they have the full company resources,
Yeah,
history, reputation, and all that
yeah,
at their
yeah,
disposal,
yeah.
right?
It's like an international company with 9 billion potential employees, and the
That's
only
right.
thing you need to do as a Lone Ranger is prove your authentication and agree with the contract with the gateway.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Um,
where does that put us?
right. Okay. So I've got a couple more questions.
Right?
They're not terribly gnarly, but
Why are those
uh,
always the worst ones?
well, the first one I think we've already touched on, which I think we can leave to one side, which is gateway interface. In that, if they agree that um, the whatever requirements of UK1 have been met by USA1 and the reverse, then essentially that
Yeah.
becomes one gateway. So you
Well,
sign up
from the point of
once.
view of two Lone Rangers, yes, but there are nuances between the two which are unreconcilable, and for only when your activities actually are affected by those nuances would you need to do
Yeah,
some
yeah,
manual
exactly.
choices, right?
Yeah, and you can think of various examples like film rights, and which are geo usually. Um, so that one, I'm quite happy with that one. Now, inside of this, uh, Dreamcatcher itself is not run by. So gateways provide services and inter contracts interoperability, contract networks,
Yep.
the NATs that you're talking about.
Yep.
Um, Dreamcatcher.org holds the rights.
Well,
Who
it holds the
runs
franchise rights.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
and grants those to gateways.
Yep.
Um, who who runs the Dreamcatcher?
What's the Dreamcatcher?
The Dreamcatcher is a combination of um, tools, the usage of JSON, which others may or may
Are you
not
talking
choose to
about running an
use.
instance of the standard environment?
Right? Yeah. Who
Yeah.
does that?
Who runs that?
Yeah.
Well,
In the legal
we
world.
want lots of people to do that. We want lots of independent entities to do that ultimately because that's how you make it decentralized.
Yeah.
Because if it's
Yeah.
just one
Agreed.
person running it, then the trader will never come to life because
Yeah. Exactly.
the runner of the hosting system could thwart or
Yeah.
rip off.
Monopolies are never a
Yeah,
good idea.
yeah, yeah. So
So
so ultimately, we want many people. In the beginning, what we want to happen is that you, me, or anyone could be an anonymous person would start a venture with the UK1 gateway, which would
okay.
enter into a contractual relationship with Dino. Um,
Uh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and they would start paying Dino for operating the standard environment. They would pay a DNS provider to host a DNS hostname. They would connect the hostname up to the Dino deploy instance, and then people will come.
Okay. So there is a legal entity, something called Dreamcatcher.org, wherever that
Yep,
jurisdiction is.
yep,
Um, there is at least one gateway,
yep,
which is a different org. That gateway has contracts coming out like a octopus with too many legs.
yep.
Um, uh, then the uh, environment of the Dreamcatcher
So,
consumes the services from a gateway, that first gateway,
yep.
and provides those services
I'll say that
inside of
last
it.
bit again. Sorry.
So the Dreamcatcher consumes services from that gateway.
The Dreamcatcher. Can you be more specific when you say the Dreamcatcher? Because
Yeah,
Dreamcatcher
we're over
occurs.
indexing that one.
So we got
I'm
Dreamcatcher
talking
org.
about just to be sure. I'm being unclear. Talking about a legal structure here. So, someone uses the Dreamcatcher. Now, in order to use the Dreamcatcher, they need to sign up to a gateway,
Right.
but the gateway doesn't run the Dreamcatcher.
Right.
So, where's the legal entity that holds an instance of a running Dreamcatcher?
Okay. Um, they don't have to sign up to a gateway to use the running instance of the Dreamcatcher, depending on the rules of the running instance of the Dreamcatcher,
Mm-hmm.
which, because we're the first ones, we get to set the rules, and you shouldn't have to sign up to a gateway. Like you could start using the running instance that we provide, and you could pay for your consumption using cryptocurrency. You don't need to have any contracts with anyone. Um,
Oh, actually, that's a good point. Actually, so I know we've used Robot Army for the Pinecone thing, but
yeah.
a random user could contract with I'm not going to use Dreamcatcher, Jube Co, um, who so the user contracts with Jube. Jube has services through the gateway, so you have all those services available. Um,
Why
Jube
would
provides.
why would you have two entities contracting with each other when we're trying to build a system where the only contractual relationships are between actors and gateways?
Well, because previously you said you're not going to sign up to a gateway. You're going to sign up to, you turn up and want to use the Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
Who's your contract with if you want to use the Dreamcatcher?
You don't need a contract. You just need to have paid.
Well, yeah, sure, but we've got terms and conditions. There is a legal responsibility there. Um, who's the legal responsibility between who's paying for the
Oh,
Dreamcatcher and who's
are you saying that in order to use the Dreamcatcher, the Dreamcatcher that's running on Deno Deploy, we
yeah.
need to make sure that we have a terms of use agreement with the users so that we can satisfy Deno Deploy's requirements for terms of use. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, because it's all
Yeah,
pass through, and there
right.
needs to be an
And you're
entity that
right, and you're asking,
holds it.
when I'm an anonymous user and I want to pay by cryptocurrency, I still have to accept terms of use. So who is my contractual relationship with?
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. I think that's as the runner of the Dreamcatcher instance, I can choose which gateway I want you to be related to.
hmm
And I would imagine it would be the gateway instance that held the relationship with Deno. So if it was the USA gateway that was the one that had the relationship with Deno for whatever reason, just because maybe they're American companies and the relationship is smoother if they're all in the same legal jurisdiction, then when you come in and browse to that address on the internet, the terms and conditions that are shown to you are the pass-through terms and conditions that Deno USA requires, and the entity that you are accepting those terms of service with is the Gateway USA company.
and that unlocks your ability to because pass through authentication. Um, you can go into the instance of Dreamcatcher, log
Mm-hmm.
in, knows who you are, and so on. You
Mm-hmm.
can spend money. You can give,
Yeah, you
you
can pay
can
by
fund stuff,
cryptocurrency.
and
You
it
you
and
don't
it
you don't
all
need to have
goes
you don't
through.
need to have proven to anyone who you are. You just needed to have clicked I accept on the terms, and now the legal requirements of the USA Gateway are met because it can meet its obligations to Deno LLC,
Yep,
and now
that
you
works.
can pay for your bills using cryptocurrency. The gateway will do the conversion for you into the fiat that Deno LLC requires, and then it pays Deno, and off you go.
Yeah, good. And I think the next question is going to be hopefully quite simple. Um, we want to set up an actual running instance of Dreamcatcher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we need an entity that contracts with a gateway
Why?
because there's multiple gateways.
What? Why do we need an entity that contracts with a gateway?
Because the gateway is there to provide services.
So the purpose
And
of
this
this
is,
scenario is to set up a Deno deploy host for a Dreamcatcher instance. Yeah.
yeah, let's go with
Yeah.
that.
So
Yep.
why do I need an entity? I can just be a
Um,
person.
well, say if we uh, as a company and a person is the same thing, a legal entity.
Yeah.
Um, the person, the Lone Ranger,
Mm-hmm.
contracts with the gateway.
Mm-hmm.
The a
Via,
company,
but that's via just a simple click. I agree, right? It's not like a signed
y-
contract of any kind, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
well, it's authentication, know your customer, for Stripe and that sort of thing. Whatever pass through requirements.
Right, but you don't.
Uh,
These are graduated, right? They're progressive. You don't when you first come in, you don't get hit with a bunch of like, oh, give us your
yeah,
passport.
because we don't know what you're going to do. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
you want
like
to do
it's
this? So,
graduated.
okay,
You only need to provide identity as you start to do more identity requiring things. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, the gateway is, and this is a question. Uh, I don't have a clear answer for. So the gateway is um, the router for contract liability and responsibilities, and it's a because of that it provides services through those contracts. So it's the gateway contracts with Deno.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say if I want to add in another service, JSR or whatever. Okay, so there's two services, but the gateway is not going to coordinate those things. So
Right.
I want to set up a company that has uh, Deno and JSR bundled, and I've got one contract with the gateway, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to even talk to those guys. Now, between those two, I provide a service.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a user that contracts with the gateway, and therefore, all the flow through is fine. Um, so I can provide a service that's happy. Now, the question is the service of the Dreamcatcher, which going into the technical and service provision world, uses a number of different services. So, do we need a legal entity to, instead of just having Deno and JSR, needs to encapsulate Dreamcatcher, which actually provides those, but has a single contract with the gateway.
No.
Um,
Why on earth would you need that? I don't even understand
uh,
why you'd ask that.
uh, because there's in this case, if we wanted Dreamcatcher to be on in the UK and USA, there's two gateways.
You wanted to run an
Um,
instance.
yeah, who's in charge of Dreamcatcher? The gateways are in charge of services and contracts.
When you say the Dreamcatcher, what are you talking about?
The stuff off to the left when we get into the more, because we're now in the legal realm.
Yeah,
Further
but
right
are you talking
on
about
the
a
left.
specific instance of a Dreamcatcher host?
Yes. Well, the first one, the one you and I, will put up here
Yeah.
is use it.
Okay. And what's the question again? Sorry.
The question is, do we need a separate legal entity that contracts with the gateway, or gateways, given that there can be more than one, in order to do
Beyond
pass
just
through?
ourselves?
Yeah,
Why? Why
yeah.
would why would you need that? That was my question.
Uh, well, the my curiosity was around if you have a number of gateways in different jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Still not seeing where the
hold,
question is there. Like, how does that relate?
forwarding it. So the who's the throat to choke if uh, Dreamcatcher goes wrong? Who are they going to call? Is it the Gateway UK1 or USA1 or North Korea 1? Who are they going to call? Who do they put their legal team after?
Okay, that's a good question. So, if there was liability accepted for the running of that Dreamcatcher host, for example, if it was a highly available system and it had an SLA attached to it,
Mhm.
then the SLA would have been entered into with one of the gateways that was comfortable taking it. That kind of activity would warrant setting up a subsidiary company so that if the obligations of that company failed, it wouldn't take down the whole gateway. All
Yeah,
right, and
yeah, I
the
think I agree with that.
complication with the
Yeah.
question you're asking is that the gateways have to be extraordinarily judicious about the type of liability that they take on, and they need to um, everything needs to be prepaid. So if, for example, I want to have a relationship with Dinner LLC, I can't get the gateway to sign up for a pay at the end of the month thing with unlimited usage. And the gateway can only agree to, I would have to prepay with the gateway to make sure that I had prepaid the maximum liability that I was ever going to get um, rack up with Deno deploy. And so an arrangement like an SLA would be something that the gateway would be like, we can't offer that for you. But we can offer you a subsidiary, and you can start a subsidiary that the gateway will start for you, and that's the liability holder for it. It'll cost you more money to set that up,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
you're if you're offering a throat to choke style contractual arrangement, you need to be on your own because you can't risk all of the other activities on the gateway just because you know something out of their control screwed up.
right, right. Yeah, exactly. If I buy a Tesla with a Visa card, um, and it all goes horribly wrong, I've got a contract to get that Tesla. If it goes horribly wrong, I can go to Visa. But I'm not contracting directly with Visa to provide me with a Tesla.
Right,
I'm asking Tesla to do that.
right.
So these gateways, I think, are uh, analogous to Mastercard and Visa.
Sort of
The
like that, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And the idea
and
is
so
that they're sort of like they facilitate payments and all that, but like Visa's never going to get involved with an SLA dispute,
oh, exactly, yeah, but they
right?
might provide insurance for it,
Well,
perhaps.
you might be like,
They choose
well,
to,
hey
yeah,
Visa, I'm within my 60-day chargeback. I want to charge back the support contract payment I made to these guys because they completely failed to deliver on their terms. Here it is,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
Visa would step in and be like, well, we can pull back that money. Blah blah blah, and then that's how you go through the dispute process there, right? But like
yeah,
your payments from 1 year ago, Visa is like, sorry, that's out of our jurisdiction. And if you want to go after that company to give you back your last 2 years worth of subscription fees, then you would go to the courts to extract that money out.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
And if I was to buy a Tesla, I'm contracting with Tesla to provide me with a Tesla.
yeah,
I'm paying by Visa.
yeah.
They're getting paid by Visa,
Right. Now,
and if
now
all
that's
goes
a
wrong,
that's an
yeah,
example of how you can do it as an individual, and all you've done as an individual is you've turned up with you turned up with a computer and you started using the Dreamcatcher. You don't even need money because you can get funded by someone else on the internet to cover the costs of you setting up that subsidiary and all those other things. So that meets the goal of a system where anybody can come along without any experience or any kind of legal anything, and suddenly they can have guided legal interaction with the world.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly. And
There's
it's
no
it's
books
it's
to
very similar.
reconcile. There's no fucking file
Yeah,
your tax returns. It's just all done for you. But
yeah,
we take a cut of your profit if you ever make
exactly.
any.
And there seems to be quite an interesting mirror between my assertion that uh, it's not practical or it's not useful to make a difference between a human and a bot using NL. It's not
Mm.
there's not useful to make a differentiation between a company and a lone ranger.
Yeah, but that's
Um,
that's um that's just the whole legal system is set up like
yeah.
that since forever. So
So
another example I want to highlight while we're on this topic is that
mhm,
what you could do is set up your own company unrelated to the Dreamcatcher, because if you create a Dreamcatcher subsidiary, then you are still able to present yourself as the Dreamcatcher, but you are still subjected to the software rules of the Dreamcatcher as well. What you could do is you could register your own company, a standalone entity, and that could enter into the SLA agreements, and then that company could use the gateway company to get Dreamcatcher services. It could contract directly to Deno, or it could use the gateway to contract with Deno. The first example I gave you was simply somebody who didn't want to um, enter the real legal world and wanted to stay, anonymous. Insofar
mhm.
as they turned up with some cryptocurrency, they used our platform, but now they're able to move levers in the real world with acceptable levels of liability that befit their anonymous status.
Yes,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah,
precisely.
yeah. So if you're welcome to sort of front our services with your own entity, but there's these other graduated types of solution that you could put together.
Yeah, exactly. And the gateway format, I think, works really well
Mm.
in order to facilitate that.
Yeah. So
So right,
sorry,
sorry. Um, no, finish your thought.
trading
S- s-
as
s-
was there because as a lone ranger, if you come in and you got an idea for a new project or a company you want to start, you should be able to do trading as, so that it's basically like no, it's the cost of the AI tokens to check that you did everything right and do like the trademark search and all that, which should be like 20 cents tops. And
Yeah,
now you've got this, Gateway UK1 would have granted you a project name or a venture name, and you would then be entitled to go around saying, um, the Scott and Tom show. You'd be entitled to go around saying, Gateway UK1 trading as Scott and Tom show,
yeah,
and you could enter into agreements, partnerships, things like that with people because you're the gateway, but you're trading as this venture name, and that's your little segmented, siloed
yeah,
little
yeah.
project.
And it's and that answers my question about where does who runs the who's responsible for the left hand side of it. Is like well, it could be you, me, could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
a
And
limited
so,
liability
in
company, and
order
then a
to,
jurisdictional.
yeah, that question is
Yeah,
important to be answered with everyone because it needs to be multiple legal entities that are in charge of running the hosts that reach consensus to provide the standard environment, because that is what is required for the trader to be operating in a decentralized profit sharing environment.
Isn't that's a very very good question.
It wasn't a
Is,
question, it was a
isn't
statement.
that no? It was a statement. No, it was a very interesting point. Isn't that Dreamcatcher orgs by the holder of the rights to? Oh no, it doesn't. No, that's not
No,
it.
that only affects the gateways.
Hmm.
Dreamcatcher org only affects the gateways. You, as a host, would be entitled to turn on your computer running on your desktop, be completely anonymous, and start running the Dreamcatcher software and contributing to the operation of the Dreamcatcher network as a whole. And you would be contributing to the decentralized rating, the decentralization of the Dreamcatcher you would be contributing to. That's the reason why we struggled so hard to make this on a blockchain.
Yes,
You
yes,
can't
yes,
have a
absolutely,
decentralized
absolutely.
income stream without a decentralized computing platform.
So these gateways are the earthing event
Yeah,
into the
they're
real
just
world.
they're just a translation between the legal world and the Dreamcatcher world, where in its fully fledged form, the Dreamcatcher world is a decentralized computer network that has all the features of a Web 2.0 system, but it is a decentralized computing platform that generates a profit that is dispersed amongst all of its contributors. And that profit is guaranteed or provably decentralized from the point of view of the securities regulator, so that a new project can come in and be blah 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 trading as and can put its hand out for some fundraising, and with the lowest possible hurdle on earth become able to be the equivalent of a publicly listed company or a publicly traded token with the bare minimum
You
hurdle.
just have to prove that you're a legal entity. That's it. That's all you need to do. Prove your legal entity to the gateway. Just one gateway.
You wouldn't even have to do that, because you could come in, like, when you're running in the fully decentralized version of the Dreamcatcher, you could be running the Dreamcatcher on your local computer, connect up, hook into the network, create a new project. It doesn't have to have, because it's not interacting with the legal world, what you call it and name it and do with it doesn't matter. And then you can ask for some money to get some stuff done. And by way of how the QA for deciding when a stuck is solved or not works, because that's running in a decentralized way, and because the profit that is returned to people that funded those stucks is run in a decentralized way, and because there's a securities guardian running that uses AI to determine that no securities grade promises were made, at that point, you've been able to basically launch a token, do an ICO,
Hmm.
achieve a thing, and it's fully within bounds of the SEC, even under its current
Yeah, and it could be
regime,
on a handshake
or
for all the
less,
system cares. Yeah.
right? And that's the ultimate goal. Like, that's the if you can make that system, that'd be the only place to go. Like, look at
I
all
know.
these people trying to make tokens and coins and dodging the SEC and having these weird fucking rules and all that.
Well,
Look at all these people.
there's an interesting thing under Scots law. It still exists. Two people shaking hand on an agreement in the presence of a third party, the gateway, counts as a contract. You don't have to write anything down. It goes back to the 17th century. Um, Much better way of doing it. It's like even a virtual handshake or a fist bump over VR in the
I
presence of
think
a
you
gateway.
might. I feel like you're missing my point there because the contractual relationship has nothing to do with the decentralized nature of the profits that you would receive.
Yeah, no, I was sorry. I was taking on to the next step about the coolness um, of the idea of two people who've never met before don't actually need to meet. Just say, right, I will do this, you do that, and they have an earthing in the contractual world because both have signed up to
Yeah,
a
they
gateway.
look like the members of the same company. That's
Yeah,
why, when you go into your place of work, you may not have met someone on floor 7, but you trust them because they work here, and you're like,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah,
We're all
yeah, yeah,
we're all covered by the same rules. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, it's
exactly.
pretty late, buddy. I kind
Sorry,
of
man.
need to get going.
But that's been another fruitful one.
It feels like
Um,
if we can just, I know it's like we're getting, it's rocky sometimes to um stay in bounds on this diagram and all that, but I really do believe that whilst this diagram isn't completely finished, it is, I would say, 95% complete.
I'm thinking we're getting quite close.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
could do
so
with having you know, um, three or even four. It could do with being in VR, to be honest, because we're talking about different things at different times.
yeah, I know, but like,
Um,
so for example, I can take some of these components and I can actually explode them out to their software based
yeah, yeah, yeah,
pieces too, right? But that the point is that without this unifying, without putting it all in context, it doesn't, it's all just, it lacks cohesion.
yeah,
This
yeah,
thing, this diagram, is most of the way to being the top level context diagram that we have so dearly wanted. And it's got this really nice demarcation between, the software world and the legal world.
yeah.
Um, and there's not too many items.
No,
Like,
it's pretty good, isn't it? I mean,
it's a little bit of
if
a
you were
tangle over
to
here, but yeah.
scrunch the gateways and black box the green blobs inside the gateway, uh, the minimum is gateway users and, a service that's been provided by a user
Mm,
sign up to a gateway and someone
yeah.
who's
So I
providing a
think the
service.
way that I would present this ultimately is, you remember that booklet that I made to describe the Dreamcatcher? And it was a board
Um,
game?
oh yeah, oh god, yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
And,
good.
and the way that I
Based on
made that
Firefly
was that,
or something, isn't it? Yeah. Is
yeah,
that the one?
yeah. The way that I made the book was that I described different narratives by just turning off bits of the diagram. So as you flip the book over, different, like, funder, talent, tech would turn on and turn off to show how different stories would go. And so to show this diagram, how I would do it is I would have like a single layout,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would go through a list of stories like Lone Ranger wants to start a new company with zero outlay. Someone wants to start a new gateway. Um, you know, like, I just list out the narratives that are
Yeah,
occurring within the
yeah.
system.
I mean, this is probably a matter of choice. But the those narratives, you could have it as abstract. This the service that's ultimately being consumed. So a user and a service provider both contract with the gateway. Uh, the user wants to do something. Um, you can abstract it at that point, and the use scenarios would be really quite simple. It's like, for example, a lone ranger wants to contract with the dreamcatcher uh, in order to, you know, um, solve a stuck. Yeah, that's really quite simple. Um, once you get inside of what Dreamcatcher means, that sounds like a different flow.
Yes,
Like,
different layer. It's a different
yeah,
diagram because
yeah,
you're like, this is a great way to just sort of say, well, how do I participate in the Dreamcatcher? And you'd flip through the pages to the page that made sense to you. Either you're a funder or a demander or a consumer, and you'd find the part that suits you most, and then you'd understand, how the rest of the system works.
yeah, yeah. And it's always there's two layers to of problems to be demonstrated in that flip chart. Um, for example, we've got James wants to contract with Marla in order to do lovely stuff on the Dreamcatcher. How does that work? Okay, so that is very simple. Now, black boxing Dreamcatcher, assuming that everyone has done everything in the previous layer, now you're into the Dreamcatcher layer. Okay, so now you're creating, consumption, you're funding, you're creating stocks, etc. That's a separate layer, um, but that's black boxed in the answering the question: who does James actually contract with?
Yeah.
How do you get going?
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right.
Okay,
I
right.
gotta go, buddy.
I think I know. Yeah, sorry, man. I, I'm trying to make these as early as possible, but the it seems to be coinciding with shit
This
happening.
is
So
good. It's just a gnarly problem that I think we finally have licked.
yeah, I think so. I think yeah, 95, 95.43. I think yeah, the fallacy of being too exact on percentages. We're close. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on working through this diagram. I think this is the
Yep.
thing to do.
The next major milestone for us will be to be able to present this to Marla and Charlotte and
Yep,
indicate that these are our requirements for what a gateway looks like.
yep.
If they would prefer to set up their own entity, that's cool. We'll help them with software, but our interest is primarily in getting this structure up. I would expect them to want to save other people the trouble that they are having to go through now just to enter into a relationship with another legal entity. Like that, solving that problem is like a good thing to do and costs only the same amount of effort really as solving it for you if you have this structure in place. So that's
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I think that is their. If we were to pitch this right now, there'd be two things. Marla would probably talk about the legal layer, and Charlotte would immediately go down into the ownership, as in contribution, attribution layer.
Yeah, so I mean we're just sort of we don't really care about we are happy to be participants in this network. So, for example, they could get good security out of being the directors of one of the gateways, and it's like, well, you can't really be more in control than that. Um, sure, there's some software rules that we all got to agree on, but if they want to break out and not follow those software rules, given that those rules aren't really written, then they could just take the gateway and go do their own thing. Like it's not like we
Well, this is
like they're in control at that point, right? Like we're basically
right.
asking, we're saying we want to joint venture with you. We want you to set up this gateway component, and we don't know how all the rules are going to shake out, but they're sort of like this. And if you don't like us, then you can take the contractual relationships you form with whatever partners happen to sign, and you can go and do your own thing. Like that, I can't imagine how you could have more control than that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And say if
Like that's ultimate control.
say Charlotte gets, as most startups do, possessive about what they own. And it's like, well, okay, so you're still contracting through the gateway. The thing that you're getting
Mm.
is this Dreamcatcher org thing is giving you all these tools, all this ability.
Right? I mean, like if we
But
started getting grumpy about what we own,
uh,
it's like, well, that's sort of
exactly.
like,
And if you wanted to set up a traditional, well, we'll argue amongst ourselves about what shares is. That's downstream from this. That's
yeah,
not
that's
our
if you
concern.
want to get into the shareholding game, don't bother us about it. But you're
Yeah,
welcome to do so. You'll just need to receive software packages without us being very interested in what you're doing, because we're like, well, that's
right.
cool, but we need to find people who are interested in moving past shares,
Yeah,
but we don't want to get in the way of people who like that model. That model built the world. I mean, you can't really kick it too badly. It's just
yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I'll not
yeah,
argue too much about.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
yes, it
good.
did. Yes, it
Yeah.
did.
So like
Um,
we'll flexibly fit into whatever they want to do, but this way, setting up the gateway gets our full attention, and going some other way gets our side attention.
yeah.
So it's sort of up to them. We don't. I don't want to in any way be forcing someone down something they aren't comfortable with. Uh, that's we don't have the time. So
Yeah, but interesting enough, although we've been calling them gateways, that could be an existing company so long as uh, it interacts in the same way as in
yeah, it
as
doesn't.
in early
I mean,
licenses.
it doesn't. It doesn't have to be a franchise. It's just that once we're going to turn on a bunch of these gateways, like half a dozen. And if you were an existing company and you transitioned and you don't fully want to meet the network rules, then your contracts aren't going to be compatible, I think.
Yeah, well, the yeah, I agree.
And I guess I'm
So
too
if it
lazy. I'm too lazy to try and figure out how to reconcile between companies with different. I'm like, I don't.
no, no,
Maybe
I don't
someone
think
can figure that out, but I
I don't
can't.
think we need to, because that what we're saying there is remove Dreamcatcher org. You remove the license for the downstream niceness of tools and all this,
Well,
good
you
stuff.
you you still
See,
you still get all that. All that the org can remove from you is just the right to say that you are the Dreamcatcher, and that might be what people want at some point. They're like, we've set up this gateway, and we want to, um, you know, we want to go be someone else.
oh yeah,
Fine,
yeah,
sure,
yeah. Anyway, right, man, it's getting late your
okay,
side,
buddy.
and I'll keep working on this one.
Yeah,
I think there's only more than one version before. Uh, I also set up that call in order to test this. I'll not do that for. Well, let's talk tomorrow, and then if we're
yeah,
certain on it,
yeah. But that's
then get
the
the day after.
milestone. If we can get this
Yeah,
to a stage where we can present it to Marla and Charlotte and not freak anyone out,
yeah,
then that's a good diagram.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
let's,
it's a very useful audience as well
yeah, yeah.
because they're friendlies and they'll tell us
Oh yeah, I've no
because they've
doubt
got skin in the game. They've got
we'll get
real
so
skin in the game
yeah.
on their side. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll see you later, buddy.
All right, man. Yeah.
Gonna get a fist bump. Or you gonna leave me hanging here?
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
They
totally.
gave
Yeah.
us a new room
Actually,
layout. Did you
I
notice?
was actually thinking about leaving it hanging as for.
This
It's
is
like, oh,
this
yeah.
guy.
Should I consider where the leaving hanging goes on this diagram? Yeah. Can you do a fist bump through a gateway? I don't know.
I'm contractually obliged to fist bump. All right, I'll see you
All right.
later.
Okay. All right. See you, man.